Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis session brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 19th Jan 2023. The list of news article for today's discussion is given for your reference. The aspirants can have a look at it. So for today, we will be covering topics ranging from governance, environment, and related to food processing. Straight away, let us move to the first topic. Coming to the first topic of the day, Admonishments that endanger the Constitution. This news article is about the recent speech of Vice President Mr. Dhankar regarding the National Judicial Appointments Commission, the collegium system, and the Keshavananta Bharati case. Before going into the opinion of the Vice President, let us know about NJAC, the collegium system, and about Keshavananta Bharati case one by one. First is the collegium system. See, the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court are appointed by the President. Know that the President cannot appoint anyone of his or her choice. The President has to consult the members of the judiciary. That is, they will consult current judges to appoint new judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. For instance, the Chief Justice of India is appointed by the President after consultation with judges of the Supreme Court and High Court if necessary. Similarly, the other judges of the Supreme Court are appointed by President after consulting the Chief Justice of India and few other judges of Supreme Court and High Court. Here, know that the consultation with the Chief Justice is mandatory in case of appointment of judges other than CJI. But is this consultative power of judiciary derived from the Constitution? The answer is no. This collegium system evolved through various judgments of the Supreme Court. In short, the judiciary decides the appointment of its members. This is where the criticism against the judiciary arises. The executives call it a conflict of interest and often cite that Constitution calls for separation of power. In addition to it, the critics of this system also say that the collegium system lacks transparency. See, this system does not involve an official mechanism or has any secretariat. It is also a closed door affair in every sense. And the critic says that no one knows when the collegium meets and how its decisions are taken. But the judiciary says that the Constitution has guaranteed them judicial independence by citing the Article 50 of the Constitution. That is all about the collegium system. Let us see what is National Judicial Appointments Commission. See, as a solution to the lack of transparency and conflict of interest, the executives, through their support in Parliament, came up with a constitutional amendment in the year 2014. That is, the Parliament passed 99th Constitutional Amendment Act in the year 2014. This was to establish NJAC and NJAC Act. See, this act aims to set up a commission for appointing judges and also to replace the collegium system. The executives believed that this would increase the government's role in appointment of judges and also end the discretion of judiciary in appointment of judges. In addition, according to this scheme, the NJAC was to comprise Chief Justice of India as ex officio chairperson, with two senior-most Supreme Court judges as ex officio members. These three people will be from the judiciary side. And if you take from the government side, the Union Minister of Law and Justice will be the ex officio member, with two eminent persons from civil society. In that, one of the member would be nominated by a committee which will comprise of CJI, Prime Minister, and leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. And the other member from the eminent person would be nominated from SC, ST, OBC or minority communities or women. So totally there will be 6 members. But the Supreme Court held that amendment severely damaged the basic structure of the Constitution, and the Supreme Court was firm in saying that independence of judiciary in appointing judges of the higher courts was an integral part of the basic structure. Hence, NJAC was repealed in October 2015 after the Supreme Court struck them down. Now coming to the Keshavananta Bharati case. See, this landmark judgment was delivered on April of the year 1973. The majority number of judges told that any provision of Indian Constitution can be amended by the Parliament in order to fulfill its socio-economic obligations. But such amendment should not change the Constitution's basic structure. From the period of this case judgment in India, the basic structure doctrine has formed the basis or reference of judicial review of all laws that were passed by the Parliament. From then, no law can remove the basic structure. Here, know that what is the basic structure, however, has been a continuing discussion. It includes like parliamentary democracy, fundamental rights, judicial review, secularism, which are all held by court as a basic structure. See, the list is not exhaustive, but it keeps evolving by case-on-case basis of the judiciary. Now coming to the opinion topic in Hindu newspaper, the article lists the criticism mounted by Vice President on all judicial mechanisms that we have discussed. Firstly, the Vice President says that striking down of NJAC had no parallels in democratic history. That is, he says something like that has never happened before, and NJAC was a correct legal constitutional prescription to address opaqueness in judicial appointments. See, in addition to it, the Vice President at the 83rd All India Presiding Officers Conference said that Parliament is sovereign and ultimate power of governance is with the legislature. He adds to say that legislature also decides who will be there in other institutions like judiciary and other constitutional and statutory bodies. In such a situation, all institutions must confine to their domains and it should not go against the wishes of the Parliament. Lastly, he cast doubting the legitimacy of basic structure doctrine. Here, he asks, how can Parliament allow its decision to be subjected to any other authority? To be precise, he says Parliament's decision is final and cannot be called to question from any other authorities. But the issue that the author points out is that although the government wants to play a role in judicial appointments, government itself has no alternative plans to implement any systematic change in the way judges are appointed. In addition, the author says that originally our constitution comprised a set of principles that together gives an identity. And the vision of our constitution was built on distinct ideals like blend of constitutional rigidity and flexibility, federal system with unitary bias, etc. So the author tells that our forefathers believed that India would be governed by a rule of law, and that rule of law would rest on Westminster parliamentarianism, and the pillars of democracy like legislature, executive and judiciary would have separate powers, and the features our constitutional makers wanted to apply. But the recent speeches of the Vice President and people from the executive domain does not guarantee them. Also, the author recalls the criticism of Vice President on Keshavananta Bharati case and tells that if there is no judicial directions, as in the case like Keshavananta Bharati case, then the Parliament would exercise complete discretion and would have unquestionable powers in amending the constitution. He says that only such directions from the judiciary can save the essence and character of the constitution. For example, if Parliament is given ultimate power now, there are chances that when a political leader with absolute majority comes to power, he or she might use all his power to change the constitutional characters that suits them. The author says if Parliament could be sovereign and ultimate law-making power, through amendment it can even erase the right to life guaranteed in Article 21. Similarly, consider 7th schedule, which deals with division of subjects. If Parliament is supreme with unlimited power, can it bring all the subjects under union list and enforce monopoly structure in India? Then there would be no state governments at all, right? If Parliament's amending power cannot be questioned here, this might happen in the future if there is a Prime Minister with an absolute majority in both the houses of the Parliament. Here, we have to know that Constitution gives power to the states to have a legislature and to form a government. Unlike the United Kingdom, where states derive their power from central government. Hence, such character of dual polity and division of authority has to be protected, right? Because this is what our forefathers wanted. And that is where Keshavananta Bharati case comes. It retains the status quo of the constitution in the way it was framed and envisioned in the year 1950s. See, the Keshavananta Bharati case gave a solution by telling the parliament that it cannot erase the basic structure of the constitution. This was once again mentioned in Minerva Mills case in 1980. In this case, the court held that parliament itself is a creature of the constitution. That is, parliament itself derives power from the constitution only, and hence parliament doesn't have the power to change the moral foundations of the constitution. Here, the author in his conclusion disapproves the views of Vice President. He conveys that anyone saying basic structure doctrine by itself is unsanctioned will only make the constitution vulnerable to the desires of parliament. And finally, he cautions that placing parliament above the supreme rule book of India, that is the constitution, in the power structure of our country can even lead to dictatorship in India. Hence, it can be no doubt for you, constitution is always supreme in India. So that is all about this article. So in this we have saw and discussed about many important topics from prelims as well as mains aspect. With this, let us complete this topic and moving to the second topic. Report flags widening learning gaps. This news article is regarding the Acer 2022 report. Acer stands for Annual Status of Education Report. Let us know about the survey in brief. See, the Annual Status of Education Report is an annual citizen-led household survey. This survey aims to understand whether children in rural India are enrolled in school and whether they are learning or not. Know that the Acer 2022 is released by a non-governmental organization named Pratham. See, from the year 2005 to 2014 and then every alternate year till 2018, a large-scale nationwide Acer surveys have been conducted. But these surveys have not been conducted for nearly 4 years because of COVID-19 pandemic and associated lockdown. These survey reports provided estimates of the enrollment status of children aged 3 to 16. In addition, the basic reading and arithmetic levels of children aged 5 to 16 at national, state and district levels were known through this survey report. Know that the survey is conducted across 616 rural districts covering around 6.9 lakh children in the 3 to 16 age group. As I said earlier, the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown led to difficulties in conducting the survey. But however, a large scale field survey was replaced by a phone-based survey in 2020 and 2021. The Acer 2022 report that we are going to discuss now is significant as it marks the resumption of nationwide field operation for the first time since pandemic. That is, the NGO Pratham returned to villages across India to generate this evidence required for Acer 2022 report. See, the Acer 2022 reached more than 17,000 villages in almost all rural districts of the country. And in addition, it provides representative estimates of schooling status of children aged 3 to 16 and learning level of the children aged 5 to 16. Comparison with earlier rounds of Acer will give us a clear picture of the effect of pandemic on status of education in rural India. Now let us see what the Acer 2022 survey report has to say. Firstly, it talks about the overall enrollment figures. At national level, the study shows that despite the effect of pandemic associated lockdown, the overall enrollment has increased to 98.4% in 2022. This is said to be a sharp rise in enrollment for the first time in 16 years. Also note that children who are not currently enrolled has decreased to reach the lowest level ever, that is just 1.6%. Secondly, the report has disaggregated the enrollment data. According to the report, the enrollment of children in government schools specifically has increased to 72.9% from 65.6% in the year 2018. This data is much significant because it has reversed the decreasing trend in government school enrollment since 2006. Thirdly, the report has highlighted the decreasing learning outcomes of children, which has been a worrying trend. The survey reports that if we compare the reading ability of the children with their numeracy skills, the reading ability is worsening much more sharply and dropping to pre-2012 levels. For instance, the percentage of class 3 children who are able to read the level of class 2 dropped from 27% to 20.5% in 2022. This applies to both the government-run schools and private school-going children. Know that this decline has been registered in every state. Another interesting finding is that the states showing a decline of more than 10 percentage points in the reading ability when compared to 2018 levels are those states that had higher reading levels in 2018. The states include Kerala, Himachal Pradesh and Haryana, and mainly large drops in the reading ability of class 3 children has been found in the state of Andhra Pradesh and in Telangana. Likewise, nationally, the percentage of class 5 children who can read at least class 2 level text fell from 50.5% to 42.8% in the year 2022. This is also applicable to students from both the government and private schools. But if we take class 8 children students data, though the percentage of students who could read at least the basic text in 2022 fell to 69.6%, its drop is smaller comparatively. Now, if we go on considering the numerical ability of the children, class 3 students who were able to do at least subtraction dropped from 28% to 25.9% in the year 2022. But fortunately, this trend is not applicable to states like Jammu Kashmir, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, where they have either maintained or improved slightly over 2018 levels. To a much surprise, in terms of the numerical ability of class 3 children, there is a steep drop of more than 10 percentage points in Tamil Nadu. Secondly, the proportion of class 5 children who can calculate division has fallen slightly from 27.9% to 25.6% in 2022. Thirdly, know that the class 8 students' performance in basic arithmetic is more differing based on various categories. Nationally, the proportion of children who can do division has slightly increased from 44.1% in 2018 to 44.7% in the year 2022. But this increase is driven by improved outcomes among girls as well as among children who were enrolled in government schools, whereas boys and children enrolled in private schools have shown a decline from 2018 levels. Finally, the Acer report has brought the increasing trends of paid tuition among students to light. According to the report, the proportion of students from class 1 to class 8 taking paid tuition courses have increased from 26.4% in 2018 to 30.5% in 2022. So these are the findings of the report from the Acer survey of the year 2022. So with this, let us conclude this topic and let us move to the next one. The third topic, the conflict behind eco-sensitive zones. See, this news article reports creation of eco-sensitive zones has led to rising of protests in Kerala and some other regions. It is feared that it may spread to other parts of the country as well. So in this news article discussion, we shall be knowing about eco-sensitive zones. But before knowing about eco-sensitive zones, let us in short know about the protected areas and reserved forests for a better understanding. Let us take protected areas first. See, in simple terms, protected areas are regions of land or sea which are given certain levels of protection. This is for conservation of biodiversity and socio-environmental values. In these areas, human intervention and exploitation of resources are limited. This is why notifying any areas as protected areas invites criticism from rights-based activists. Okay, now know that currently protected areas cover around 5.26% of India's land area. It includes 108 national parks and 564 wildlife sanctuaries. Most important from prelims perspective is that know that the protected areas are notified under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Now let us know about the Forest Rights Act. See, the Forest Rights Act was enacted in the year 2006. It recognizes the rights of forest tribal communities and other traditional forest dwellers. Like it recognizes their rights on forest resources that provide livelihood, habitation and other socio-cultural needs for the tribal community. Additionally, this act recognizes and rights and occupation in forest lands in forest dwelling scheduled tribes as well as traditional forest dwellers. The traditional forest dwellers are people who have been residing in such forest for generations. In brief, this act strengthens the conservation regime of the forests while ensuring livelihood and food security of this community. From prelims angle, know that the Gram Sabha is the authority to decide the nature and extent of individual forest rights and community forest rights as well. Hence, Gram Sabha has the final call in deciding the rights of forest dwelling scheduled tribes as well as traditional forest dwellers in reserved forest areas. See, these Gram Sabhas that we are discussing now are the statutory authority that are empowered to conserve, protect and manage forests alongside wildlife conservation and biodiversity lying within the traditional village boundaries. And these areas that come under Gram Sabhas are called community forest resource. This is enough from exam point of view. Now let us move to the eco-sensitive zone. See, the eco-sensitive zone is an area that is notified by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. They are situated around the protected areas, national park and wildlife sanctuaries. Know that the notification declaring areas as eco-sensitive zones are issued under Environment Protection Act of 1986. See, the main aim behind declaring an area as eco-sensitive zone is to regulate certain activities happening around the area, and these regulations could minimize the negative impact of such activities on a fragile ecosystem surrounding the protected areas. Note that the activities in and around eco-sensitive zones are not completely restricted. Some activities like ongoing agriculture and horticulture practices by local community, rainwater harvesting, organic farming and adoption of green technology and use of renewable energy sources are allowed within the eco-sensitive zones. See, the news article reports that as of now, the government has notified 341 eco-sensitive zones in 29 states and 5 union territories, while another 85 eco-sensitive zones are awaiting notification. Another statistic is that the protected areas and eco-sensitive zones together cover nearly 8.66% of India's land area. If eco-sensitive zones are such a good measure to conserve the fragile ecosystem and green cover in India, why declaring an area as eco-sensitive zone is leading to protest and other problems? This is because in certain states, parts of eco-sensitive zones fall within the scheduled areas that are notified under 5th schedule of Indian Constitution. See, such scheduled areas cover 11% of country's land area. and know that they are thickly forested and mountainous region as well. Such areas populated by scheduled tribe groups and notified by the president under Article 244, where certain provisions of Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act 1996 apply, recognizes habitation level Gram Sabhas. According to the PESA Act of 1996, the Gram Sabhas are competent enough to safeguard and preserve community resources on forest and revenue lands in the scheduled area. In that case, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has not amended the Environmental Protection Act of 1986 to comply with the provisions of PESA and Forest Rights Act. So, any declaration of eco-sensitive zone in and around the scheduled areas and reserved areas is said to dilute the powers and functions of the Gram Sabha. So, the self-autonomy and the local autonomy of the tribals are not ensured here. This is because in case of eco-sensitive zone, a committee led by Chief Wildlife Warden would exercise power in determining the area under eco-sensitive zone. Also, the Chief Wildlife Warden would decide regarding the nature of activities that would be allowed, prohibited and regulated in eco-sensitive zone. In addition to these problems, the recent verdict of Supreme Court with regard to eco-sensitive zone have also led to rise in protest against the eco-sensitive zone. So these points which we have discussed now are enough for both mains and prelims exam. So in this topic discussion, we have covered a lot about the environment related topic. So with this, let us end it and move to the next topic. Coming to the fourth topic, NCM chief claims Jains pacified by government's decision on Samit Shikhar. This news article reports the government's reversal of the decision with respect to Samit Shikhar. That is, the union government as well as the government of Jharkhand have decided that the Jain site of Samit Shikharji will remain a place of pilgrimage and it will not be converted into a tourism hub. See, Samit Shikharji is located on the Parasnath hills of Girith districts of Jharkhand. This site is considered to be the biggest pilgrimage center of the Jain community. Also, it is believed that one among the 24 Tirthankaras attained Nirvana here. Earlier in the year of 1984, the Parasnath Wildlife Sanctuary, where the hill is located, was established by the then Bihar government. Now, know that the sanctuary was established under the provisions of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. In addition to it, the Parasnath Hills were declared as eco-sensitive zone by the Government of India notification in consultation with the Jharkhand government in 2019. Because of this, there were increase in ecotourism that affects the cleanliness of the areas around the holy shrine. That's the reason why Jain community have protested and demanded to ban tourism in the area. In this discussion, we saw about the relief granted by the intervention of National Commission for Minorities, right? So in that regard, let us know about the National Commission for Minorities. See, the National Commission for Minorities was established with the enactment of National Commission for Minorities Act 1992. And the Minorities Commission that was created in 1984 became a statutory body and renamed as National Commission Minorities in 1992. See, the first statutory National Commission was set up on May 1993, where a Gazette notification was issued on 1993 by the Ministry of Welfare. In that notification, 5 religious communities, they are Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists and Parsis, were notified as minority community. Later on, a notification issued on the month of Jan in 2014 included Jains under the category of minority community. Know that as per the 2001 census, these 6 religious minorities constitute around 18.8% of the country's population. Know that as per the 2001 census, these 6 religious minority communities constitute around 19% of the country's population. I have attached the statistics with respect to the population of minorities in our country. The aspirants can have a look at it. See, for minorities, Constitution of India has provided number of rights and safeguards in fundamental rights, DPSP, and also in the fundamental duties. But there has to be an institution to monitor its enforcement, right? That's the reason why NCM was established. See, National Commission for Minorities is a forum for appeal to safeguard the rights and interest of India's minority communities. And the Section 9 of the NCM Act lists certain functions of the commission. They are like to evaluate the progress of development of minorities. Second, to monitor the working of the safeguards provided in constitution and in union and state laws. Thirdly, to make recommendations for implementing the safeguards for protection of minorities' interest effectively, and so on. Now, coming to the issues with respect to NCM, firstly, the appointment to commission lacks transparency. That is, there is no prescribed selection process for making appointments. Hence, it leads to arbitrary approval of names from the list suggested by the nodal ministry. Secondly, although NCM is a statutory body, it lacks certain powers like conducting inquiry either through suo motu or based on the representation presented by the notified minority communities. Second, like to investigate and use services of any investigation agency, to intervene in any proceedings including related to the violation of constitutional provisions, and so on. Thirdly, the functioning of NCM and also the operation of state minority commissions are dependent on central and state governments. Last but not the least, the formation of Commission on Linguistic Minorities reduced the jurisdiction of NCM, thereby restricting it to deal with matters concerning religious minorities only. These are issues which government has to sort it out. So in this topic, we have discussed comprehensively about the National Commission for Minorities and also about the Samid Shikharji Shrine. Let us complete this topic and move to the final one. Coming to the fifth and the final topic of today's discussion, Fizz and Fries in daily diet of many in Northeast, East and Goa. See, this news article registers variation in dietary and food consumption across the country. The data from National Family Health Survey, that is NFHS 5, that was conducted in the period 2019 to 2021 is used to substantiate such a claim. I have attached the graph given in the newspaper. The aspirants can have a glance at it while discussing and know that such state-wise data is not much important for our exams. But in this news article, let us grasp few information from the article entirely from exam point of view. See, the article initially notes that the consumption of fried foods and aerated drinks is relatively higher in Goa and many eastern and northeastern states. It compares it with the rest of India. According to the survey, in Goa, over 22% of men consume aerated drinks daily. It is while close to 10% women did so in the state of Assam. See, aerated drinks are nothing but the carbonated drinks like Coca-Cola, 7-Up, etc. For another instance, about 83% of women consumed fried food daily in the state of Mizoram. This is close to 38% of men in Odisha. See, these kind of dietary patterns in these states are worrying because regular consumption of such food leads to chronic diseases. That is what I have discussed in the issue subtopic. According to the WHO Department for the Prevention of Non-Communicable Diseases, consumption of added sugar and aerated drinks is a major factor behind obesity and diabetes. Note that as a solution to the problem in 2016, the WHO, that is the World Health Organization, has recommended policies that led to 20% increase in retail prices of sugary drinks. This in turn led to reduction in consumption of such products. Another shocking report was based on the study by Harvard School of Public Health. See, the study by the Harvard School of Public Health showed that people who ate fried food at least once a week were at greater risk of developing both type 2 diabetes and heart diseases. It said that the more the times we consume fried food, the higher the risk associated in developing type 2 diabetes and heart diseases. Moreover, developing higher blood pressure and increased triglyceride levels in the human body is due to the result of consuming fried food that is made up of used oil. In addition to it, the article says that mix of conditions such as prevalence of high blood pressure, high random glucose level and high triglyceride levels in the body leads to metabolic syndrome. Such syndrome has to be prevented at all costs as metabolic syndrome increases the risk of developing heart diseases, diabetes, stroke or all the three. From exam point of view, know that the burden of related diseases is already high in India. Especially the prevalence of non-communicable disease in India is increasing day by day. And note that in the year 2019, India recorded the second largest number of diabetes cases in the world. Likewise, between 1990 to 2019, India recorded the biggest increase in diabetes. Biggest increase in diabetes related deaths, registering nearly 273 deaths in 2019. This is all about the topic. With this, we have come to the end of the topic discussion. Let's close the article's discussion now and move to discussing the prelims and mains based question. Now, coming to the prelims question discussion, consider the first question. With respect to eco-sensitive zones, which of the following statements is or are correct? Statement 1. Eco-sensitive zones are areas that are declared under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Statement 2. The purpose of the declaration of eco-sensitive zones is to prohibit all kinds of human activities in those zones except agriculture. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The options given are option A, 1 only, option B, 2 only, option C, both 1 and 2, option D, neither 1 nor 2. See, in our discussion, we comprehensively dealt with eco-sensitive zones, in which we studied that the eco-sensitive zones are notified by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and they are notified by a notification which is issued under the Environmental Protection Act and not Wildlife Protection Act. So the correct statement would be eco-sensitive zones are areas that are declared under Environment Protection Act of 1986. So the first statement is wrong. Now coming to the second statement, it says the purpose of the declaration of eco-sensitive zones is to prohibit all kinds of human activities in those zones except agriculture. No. Activities like ongoing agriculture plus horticultural practices, rainwater harvesting, organic farming and adoption of green technology and renewable energy sources are allowed. Hence the second statement is also wrong. So the correct answer for this question is option D, neither 1 nor 2. Moving to the second question, with respect to the National Commission for Minorities, which of the following statement is or are correct? The statement given is statement 1. It is a constitutional body that is established under the Article 324 of Indian Constitution. Statement 2. Its jurisdiction extends to safeguard the rights of both linguistic and religious minorities. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The options given are option A, 1 only, option B, 2 only, option C, both 1 and 2, option D, neither 1 nor 2. See, this is a direct question. So, if we take the statement 1, Article 324 of Indian Constitution is given. No, this statement is wrong because the National Commission for Minorities is a statutory authority that was established under National Commission for Minorities Act, and moreover the Article 324 deals with establishment of Election Commission of India and not National Commission for Minorities. So eliminate the first option and option C. Now come to the second statement. Its jurisdiction extends to safeguard the rights of both linguistic and religious minorities. No, this statement is wrong because in our discussion we saw the formation of Commission on Linguistic Minorities has reduced the jurisdiction of National Commission for Minorities, and it restricted the NCM to deal with matters concerning religious minorities only. So the second statement is also wrong. So the option for this question is D, neither one nor two. Now moving to the mains question. The question is, parliamentary sovereignty is essential for a country that practices indirect democracy. Critically analyze. So the aspirants can consider this question. They can write the answers for this question and they can post it in the comment section. This will be useful for them, and the aspirants, fellow aspirants, can peer review it. And with this topic discussion and the question analysis, we have come to the end of the today's news analysis discussion. So with this, let us wind up the session. And if you like this session, if you understand the concept, if you are clear with the way or the methods I have taught you, you can comment it, you can share it, you can like it, and subscribe to the Forum IAS Academy. Thank you.